Good afternoon, Rotarians. As always, it's so wonderful to see all your faces here. We're still in person. We're still loving time together. I want to thank Stan Martinkus for being our greeter today. Thank you, Stan. And Doug Rich is going to do our music.
To quote the famous philosopher Randy Beeler, what do you get when you cross a hippopotamus with a chickadee with a couple of sheep? Hippo birdie to you. And in that honor, if you've not been on social media or have been living under a rock, you might have heard that Tuesday was somebody's birthday. So I wanted to be able to present you with this temporarily. Thank you. And we're all going to join in a version of Happy Birthday to Aaron, okay? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear President Aaron. Happy birthday to you.
I actually have a foot surgery soon, so that'll come. I'm having foot surgery. Thank you. That was a surprise. Thank you. I got a message this morning, oh, Doug's doing music. Had no clue. But funny thing is it's not the age. I have foot surgery in 2 weeks, so that's going to come in handy. Thank you. So I'm going to deny it as an age thing. But thank you. That means so much to me. I appreciate that. And now Rick Pennell for invocation.
I really worked on, I had a couple different prayers today, and then I just finally realized I just had this talk today from my heart, and kind of an emotional week this has been for many of us for many different levels. So, you know, we're all judgmental. We all have someone who hates us or represents what they think and hate. We all hate someone or maybe their identity or an idea. When Bob Woodward was here a few weeks ago, he stated, hate leads to more hate and eventually can lead to negative actions from hate. We are seeing this in our country today and in the world. Now as we look at Ukraine and now Israel, this is not a war we're seeing. This is hate in action. War is military against military. War is not intentionally shooting missiles at schools, hospitals, civilian housing. War is not killing and raping innocent civilians in their own homes, in their streets, in their towns. Those are actions of hate. Are we becoming numb to seeing such hate in action? There's nothing okay about what we're seeing in our country, Ukraine, or Israel today. Not one of us in this room can change society or the world order. What we can change is our individual focus on the importance of loving and respecting our fellow man, no matter their religion, their race, or political belief even. What we can change is to respect and try to understand versus judge different choices in sexuality, mental health, holiness, addiction, and yes, even political. As Mother Teresa said, we cannot do great things. What we can do is small things with great love. We must start with our hearts to personally reflect for ourselves and no one else how we can, in our own small sphere of life, make someone else's life better, one person at a time. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. That's a beautiful message. We all have the power to do that, to make a difference in one life means the world. Yes. It's your birthday today? Why didn't you say me? Okay, one more round. One more round of happy birthday, shall we? Here we go, but I'm not singing in the microphone. Ready? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Rick. Happy birthday to you. And Rick, I now bequeath the cane to you. It's now passed on to you. This will be our birthday gift to everybody. I want to welcome our guests, so if we could have all our guests stand up and be welcome, that'd be fantastic. Welcome. And I'm going to ask 3 people to stay standing. You know who you are. We have some special guests today. Jessica Garcia has brought 2 friends from Ecuador that she's known for 25 years. And she was visiting Ecuador and had food poisoning. I don't know the details, and no one else will. But her friend, Kleber, helped her get access to the care that she needed, and they've been friends for literally 25 years. So we have Kleber and Wisaka and Lorena Tapia. And I just wanted to say welcome to Yakima. And I hope it's okay if I share what you shared with me, is that you're considering relocating to Yakima, and we would welcome you to our community. Thank you for being here today. So this is the day of standing. As we know, October 7th was Operation Harvest, and it was a beautiful day. I gathered lots of food in the section I was in. I know we had lots of bins full, and you'll be getting a full report of how Operation Harvest did this year from Randy and David when they return. But I want to make sure to honor and thank and share gratitude to everybody who helped. So if you put a sign in your yard, if you stapled bags, if you handed out bags, picked up food, you were collecting the food. If you had anything to do with Operation Harvest this year, can you please stand? Thank you. We could not do this important work without everybody here, and it is true what they say, it takes a village, and thank you. This supports food banks all over the county, and it supports hundreds of families, and we will just continue to make this bigger each year. No pressure, Jimmy. I got to put out challenges every once in a while. The next announcement I have is that just a reminder that next week instead of meeting here at noon, we're going to be meeting at Bell Breakers at 4 o'clock, 4 to 6. And our program committee opted to change it up a little bit based on the feedback we heard from our club and our surveys and our focus groups. And I'm happy to say that the weather forecast will still be in the mid to high 60s. There will be heaters outside provided by Bell Breaker. And while we'll have a short program, a very short program, this is really focused on social time with each other, getting to know each other. We have some new members, we have some veteran members. What a great time to just, step outside our shell if we're shy and just get to know each other. And so when we do come to lunch together, we can say, hey, let's sit together. That was fun last week. Please invite your spouse, invite a guest. This is a great time to invite a guest so they can get to know some of our members. And then there's another reason to be there, and I'll tell you after the marble draw if that's a strong reason or not, because we may have just one marble left. I don't want to jinx it, though. So I encourage you to attend. The next is Rotary Leadership Institute, or RLI. There's one coming up next weekend on October 21st and 22nd in Ellensburg. And for those of you who don't know about Rotary Leadership Institute, this is a really great opportunity to meet with other Rotarians from our district. It is a great opportunity to learn more about Rotary, how Rotary started, how it's grown, what things look like from an international landscape, national landscape, and even in our region. And I attended RLI, and I loved it. And I know that it seems like, oh, I got to go to a class, but it's interactive. You meet some great people, and you learn about the club that we're a part of, and it really engaged me in a more meaningful way. So I encourage you, we'll send out another link to the RLI, and Carolyn and I talked this morning, and we do have a little money in the budget. The cost for registration is $100, but we can help by paying for half of that. So if you're interested in attending, and we will pay for half your registration, contact Carolyn, and we'll get you registered. My last announcement is about Rotary Youth Exchange. I want to thank our chairwoman, who has done a great job, Jerry Ketchum, and let you know that we still have time to turn in applications. So if you know of a student who's interested in traveling abroad, please get in touch with Jerry. Where is she? She's right there. She has applications available. And it's just an easy one-page application. So I encourage you to encourage youth in our community to participate. And with that, that's the last of my announcements, and I'll ask Lila Mowat to join us and do the marble draw.
I'd like to add that we have a special consolation prize today, so we will be picking a second place winner. You won't win the cash, but you will get your choice of Rotary beer or Rotary wine. So, and our jackpot today is at over $4,000. All right, our lucky cash prize winner today is, maybe, 233-7255. All right, come on up. Yes. White marble. Wow, it's blue.
That is awesome. Okay.
So the winner of a bottle of Rotary wine, 233-7205. All right, come on down.
Thank you, Lila. Okay, now I can go back to that past announcement about going to Bellbreaker. It's a sure thing. You win, your ticket's drawn, it's yours. All right? So there we go. You better be there. I would like to ask Teresita Tamez to come up and share. Is she here today? There you are. Let's give her a round of applause.
So just a warning, I was crying while I wrote this, so I'll try not to cry while I'm reading it. Good afternoon. First, I'd like to thank Judge Rodriguez-True for asking me to speak today. I was asked to share a little about myself with all of you. Thank you. I'm going to switch that up a little bit and tell you what being Latina means to me. Being Latina means overcoming adversity and being part of a family. How many of us thought when we were younger that we knew everything? Right? I know I did. That is likely why I was so confused, and I didn't understand why my parents pushed me to be better in school, to be a better person, to be courageous. When I got older, my parents shared with me their immigration stories. My mother came to the United States from Cuba when she was only 19 years old. How many of us can remember what we were doing when we were 19? I know when I was 19, I would not have been able to leave everything behind like she was forced to. She was put on a plane by her father when she was 19 without any idea if they were ever going to see each other again. She had to learn everything when she arrived in the United States. She had to learn the language. She had to learn how to get a job. She had to learn how to live in a whole new world. My father was only 14 years old when he came to the United States from Cuba. I asked my father yesterday how old he was when he immigrated. And he was very clear that when he arrived, he was 14 3/4 years old. He remembered the day, March 27th, 1961, that he arrived in Miami International Airport. Like my mother, he didn't know how to navigate in this new place. He only knew that his big brother brought him and their parents to the United States from Cuba to escape. Both my parents struggled and sacrificed so that my brothers and I didn't have to. And I still didn't understand what my parents were trying to teach me. That is, until I found myself alone, desperate and homeless. I was 22 years old and hopelessly addicted to drugs and alcohol. It was my parents who pulled me out of that pit that I couldn't crawl out of myself. It was my cousin who took a chance on me, took me into his family, and gave me a job when I was unemployable. It was my brothers who taught me how to love and how to be loved when I was unlovable. And it's my family who still rallies around me and lifts me up when I feel like I can't make it on my own. That is what being Latina means to me.
You're a beautiful woman. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Teresita. You are a beautiful woman, strong woman. Thank you for sharing with us. Sergeant at Arms, Nancy Leahy.
Well, welcome to beautiful October. Put all my treasured things out for you today. Sergeant at Arms members, you can stay seated for right now. I'll give you the high sign when towards the end of this exercise to please stand up. When Mariette called me with this date, I said sure right away. My calendar looked clear, it looked good. And then I got into what the topic was going to be about a week and a half ago, and I realized what serendipity this is, deja vu, because for 12 years, Mary Place and I chaired the Yakima Chemical People from 1983 through 1985. With the help of Sylvia Severin, who was on our committee, and Kathy Mullen, we ran a month of activities. It was geared to be, first of all, citywide, turned into countywide, and within that period of time turned into a 4-county effort, and I was employed at that point by the Southeast Community Center. Esther Huey was my boss for 6 years. And we produced pamphlets called the Straight Talk series that went to every single household with middle school or high school kids. We did 4 of those. Straight talks on party and the law, straight talks on parenting, straight talk on getting treatment. Unfortunately, the topics got deeper as the years grew on. Now for that time, I'll tell you, if you want a job where success is rare and the workload guaranteed to grow, try convincing teenagers not to drink or use drugs. But I got promoted. I went up to CWU to work my health master's, and I was teaching drug and alcohol awareness, facilitating substance abuse programs on campus in my master's program. Now, if you really, really want a job where success is rare and the workload growth is guaranteed, try convincing college students not to drink or to use drugs. It was uphill every day for 14 years, but during those years I learned so much. I learned about what you can and cannot control for people, that there really is success when people need some good listening and some good information. I learned that the first class exercise with any group I did had to be to learn active listening skills, some call facilitative listening, because all ambition for habit change and health start with being heard and learning to deliver messages without judgment. Well, today we're going to have an active listening drill right here in this room. Some of you are going to be speakers. Some of you will be a listener just for 1 minute, but just to give it a trial. There are rules for talkers, okay? And the rules have to do with avoiding the 7 communication roadblocks. And those roadblocks are delivering messages with ordering and directing people, warning or threatening people, preaching or moralizing, advising or teaching, judging or blaming, interrupting or psychoanalyzing, and lastly, name-calling or shaming. These are to be avoided because it shuts down people and your listener's not going to hear what you're saying. So for talkers, try and remember what these roadblocks are as you speak and not to shut the people down. Now we're going to have some listeners in the room too. So I hold this up as 6 listening rules to pay attention to. Remove distractions like your cell phone. Even the appearance of a cell phone on a table can limit a person's openness. Focus on the person who's talking. Listen for the feelings and the content. Show that you understand, give indications you're understanding, and then summarize occasionally when the talker has made a point. And avoid these same roadblocks of judgment as you listen. Now for your participation piece, I'd like you to divide into 2s at your table, a listener and there'll be a talker. Now if your numbers are uneven, go ahead with 3. 2 of you could be listeners, 1 person will be the talker. Now as you divide, right now, go ahead and divide off. This is going to be a communication rehearsal. How well you do following those learning points. And the talkers, and I will tell you, the talker is going to be the younger one of the 2 of you. Okay, your talker is the younger one. The listener is the older one. That's going to be the listener. And for 1 minute, the talker has got to convince the listener to stop eating 6 cans of kidney beans a day. So you've got the talker, you're talking to somebody that eats 6 cans of kidney beans a day, and we kind of all want them to stop doing that. So you have 1 minute to convince them to do this, but not using roadblock. And you're listening to yourself being convinced. I want you to, no judgment. Okay, on your mark, get set, go. I gotta press my button. Thank you. My clock is running.
You want me to put it? Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
How have you been?
Good.
You look beautiful. I love this outfit. So cute.
I wore it to go out. It's really my special outfit. It was really such a sweet. Look, they're doing good. They're doing good. The convincers. I'll explain this. The kidney thing is going to grab them. They're not going to be ready for it, but it is what we did in class. We did this. Yeah, with the alcoholism classes. I know you're now the chairman of the board.
Yes, yeah.
I loved it up there. I have to say, I loved it.
You went?
I loved it up there.
I did.
My 2 years, I was a graduate assistant. Okay, I'm going to ring that bell then to stop them. Okay. Pay attention. Okay, you may stop now. And Sergeant at Arms, up and ready, please. Okay. You guys are really talking up a storm. So, all right, now for you talkers, if you had a good listener for your talking, a person who didn't interrupt you, pay up $1, would you? Or $2, if you'd like. That's your service for having a good listener. And now for the listeners, if the talker spoke directly to you and communicated without roadblocks, will you listeners please pay $1 for that good deed? Okay? Rotary, you just succeeded in establishing a communication connection the number one step in being a good helper. But there's two more important rules to follow. Okay, two more rules. One is you respect who you talked with and keep that respect. And the second one is confidentiality. Remember, what was said with them stays with you both, and don't share that. I wanted to share with you the kidney bean rationale. At CWU, when we did this, we did with the kidney beans. And then there was a second level, and we had them say the same kinds of things, only it was regarding drug and alcohol use. You can speak much more easily and find your words when you're talking about something that isn't confusing or loaded with emotion. But if you have to explain to somebody you want them to reduce their use of beer or alcohol, you have the words. You just found the words to do that. It's easier to go from kidney beans to alcohol than just start with the tough stuff. So I thank you, Rotarians. Your communication will increase understanding, maturity, and trust in all of us. And you just raised a lot of money for Rotary charities. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. So we're now at our speaker introductions, and Rick Pennell is going to join us again at the stage to introduce our speaker. Thank you, Rick. And birthday boy.
Thank you, birthday girl. Some of you may say, oh, another talk about drugs, or another talk about fentanyl. It's not my problem, you're saying. It's a young person, as Nancy mentioned, high school, college, it's their problem. A homeless person, those addicts, they just need to get a life. Wrong, wrong, and wrong. Let me enlighten you to some statistics that some of you in this room might relate to based on your age. Statistically, seniors 65 plus deaths from suicide, drug overdose, and accident rose 50% from 2019 to 2021. Overdose drug deaths, 65 plus, in 2002, 3 per 100,000 to now 12 per 100,000. I only took 65 and above. Drugs are a society problem that has no boundaries: age, social, economic, religion, even family upbringing. If you or your family has not been touched by some type of addiction, count your blessings. Megan Tweedy, our speaker today, is a mom, a wife, a yoga instructor, an owner of an agricultural company, and a daughter of a Rotarian. Megan probably is the last person you think, why would she be here today to talk about drugs or drug addiction? Wrong again. Megan is here to share her personal story of loss through her brother's overdose, death, and her journey of education and grief from this painful loss of her family. Please welcome Megan Tweedy.
Good afternoon. Before I begin, I actually just want to thank Tia. Where did you go? Tia? Thank you so much for sharing your story. And I want to draw particular attention to it because it is so difficult to talk about these subjects. And thank you for your openness and willingness to share today. So I have about 20 minutes, but I have to insert just a short, funny anecdote. I don't know if Judge Elifson is part of this Rotary. No? Well, I see some of you who know him or staff, so you can tell him the story I shared. So, retired drug court Judge Elifson has just been a huge influence in inspiring me to talk openly and do some of the work I'm doing. So he invited me to drug court a couple years ago, and I started going, and I found great inspiration and comfort from it. Last week he texted me and he said, so-and-so is graduating, and because it's not my story to share about so-and-so, I won't use his name, but I've been watching him, and he happens to be an employee at our company. So my husband and I went to the graduation. But the funny anecdote is I told Judge Elifson a while ago, I was like, it drives me crazy that people talk in court. You don't talk in court. That is just not something we're supposed to do. And there's just talking. So I arrived, we sit in the jury box, and David Elifson starts talking to me. And he's like, so how are you feeling about Thursday? And I say, well, I was feeling pretty good until you had to bring it up right now. And he's like, you'll be fine. Talk slowly and just try and figure out what the audience wants to hear. So I'd already spent hours on my preparation. So funny anecdote. There are so many great people doing really inspiring work in our community. I have so much gratitude to them. Some of you are here, thank you. I also want to acknowledge that my friend Janie Stelzer and her son David Stelzer are here. They also speak publicly about their loss. Paul Stelzer died of an overdose 6 weeks after Jeff. We were all friends, all family friends. And so I'm grateful for her being here as well, because this is her story, as it is many stories. So like I said, I'm here to share a story, a personal narrative, and the main character is no longer with us. Some of it is inferred because the plot is addiction, and it's often hidden and filled with shame. Some of you knew my brother Jeff. You watched him grow up as a skinny, tow-headed kid. He was so cute. And playing in the on or by the irrigation ditch with the apple orchards and Mount Adams as the backdrop. He had 2 loving and dedicated parents and 2 siblings, me, my brother Scott. Well, I know the ending and the answer to the question. Inevitably, probably 3-4 times a week, I will say, how did my brother die of a fentanyl overdose in February of 2020? His death was catastrophic. The ripple effect of grief, widespread and far-reaching. Making sense of it is like a chaotic puzzle with pieces scattered everywhere, and no amount of categorizing, sorting will expose a coherent shape. How do you capture the essence of someone you love in a few minutes? Pay tribute to the humor, the beauty, and love, and acknowledge the darkness of the disease. At 6'4", Jeff lit up the room. He had a natural gravitational pull. He was quick-witted, he was charismatic, and he was a caring and generous, loyal son, brother, friend, and father. An owner in our family fruit business, he was as comfortable driving the forklift, interacting with his employees as he was making decisions. He was a dad to Emma and Ella, who are navigating the nuances of life without a free-spirited and loving and adoring father. Jeff suffered from opioid use disorder. I'm going to use the acronym OUD as I speak with you today, opioid use disorder. So the word disorder represents chaos, and the definition is fitting. The puzzle will never reveal a clear landscape. It provides glimpses of a disease that is messy and filled with shame and stigma. Those who are left behind try to make sense of the nonsensical. It touches every part of your life, impacts every relationship. It destroys, manipulates, creates doubt and denial, and leaves a wide swath of destruction in its wake. We don't offer pink ribbons or send flowers, and those who haven't lost everything and end up alone and homeless often hide behind the mask of shame. I wish I had extended the understanding towards Jeff's disease that can be critical to recovery, the what ifs. There's something I've grown to accept after exhausting myself with the what ifs. It's been part of my grief process. We don't get do-overs, but we do get owning our doing. And I was part of the shame and stigma process. Like many with OUD in the mid-2000s, Jeff's path coincided with the trajectory of the opioid crisis. He got his start when prescription opioid medications were widely available. He took, prescribed or not, I don't know, some of the nearly 88 million prescription pain pills, enough for 36 pills per person per year in Yakima County from 2006 to 2014. That's directly from the DEA website. So along comes wave one, a rise in prescription opioid overdose deaths. We are now in wave four. As wave two came along, we saw those who were struggling with OUD transition, many of them to heroin, which was then at the time the cheaper alternative. I know Jeff did not make that transition. He shared that with me. And I believe now, because he could afford to continue to buy prescription pain pills that were available illicitly. The story, because it is written in past tense, most likely reveals what I believe was an okay decade with Jeff as he lived with his hidden disease. He was successful in the production side of our family business. He raised his kids, joined us on family trips, but there were signs. I later learned he was most likely successful relapsing and recovering. And I have to emphasize this. Relapse is part of the recovery process. During that time, I believe he was successful relapsing and recovering because he was on buprenorphine or Suboxone, which I'll talk about later. Then we get to the third wave of the opioid crisis, and it hit with a vengeance. The graph had steadily been going like this, and it's still going like this. The rise in overdose deaths due to synthetic opioids like fentanyl. Locally, the YPD first saw fentanyl in the fall of 2017, when the regular blue pills they had grown accustomed to seeing were causing more deaths. They were analyzed, and fentanyl, or one of its derivatives, became the catastrophic game changer it is today. At that time, a pill was $25 to $30. When I spoke with YPD last week, they're buying them, YPD is buying them undercover for 60 cents a pill. Jeff did not live to see the fourth and hopefully final wave of this epidemic. polysubstance overdoses, which basically means fentanyl mixed into other drugs, usually now a stimulant like cocaine or methamphetamine. The disease that had taken the better part of a decade to hide took only a year as the insidious nature of fentanyl revealed itself. Jeff came to work less and less frequently, often disheveled. His behaviors were off, friendships dissolved, family bonds strained, and we could no longer deny what we all knew to be true. My husband, Sean, his friend since kindergarten, and his business partner found him dead after 3 days. It was left to me to call my dad, my mom, his children, family members, and close friends. Our family will live with that trauma for the rest of our lives. The backdrop of apple orchards and Mount Adams now serve as Jeff's view from his final resting place. Jeff was addicted to opioids. He had not yet, if ever, found a way to live in this world without them. The personal story ends there. So why am I here talking about an excruciatingly painful experience that I know I make look easy? And it's not. It's not particularly cathartic or healing. It may be even more traumatic. I don't know. But what I do know is I have to tell the story because 72% of the public do not believe that a person with substance use disorder is experiencing a chronic medical condition. If I had more time, I'd highlight what Caleb, my friend from University of Washington Addiction, Drug, and Alcohol Institute, came last spring and shared at our fentanyl town hall about the science of addiction, because it gets at the heart of the complicated medical condition where stigma continues to impede progress. What I will say is while a person makes a choice to start using, like many of us have chosen to have that first socially acceptable drink, changes in brain chemistry make it very difficult to stop. And people continue to use just to feel not sick. The search for the high is long gone as the body gets used to opioids and withdrawal is awful. I often wondered how it was Jeff got the flu so many times. And as Sean, Jeff, and I took the 5 girls to Whitefish for a ski trip, and he barely came out of his room, I am now certain he was withdrawing, ashamed, miserable, and doing what he could to survive. My friend Jannie witnessed and took care of her son, Paul, as he was withdrawing. As my friend, a local addiction medicine doctor, thank you for them, Jillian Zuckerman says, the system that fentanyl is working on the brain is closely tied to basic activities of life, like those connecting to our mothers at birth. It's so fundamental that your brain literally will tell you, if you do not have this, then the alternative is death. If you already feel like you're going to die, then it makes a lot more sense why somebody would risk death by using fentanyl. Most people experiencing substance use disorder, or SUD, a lot of acronyms, especially to the highly addictive illicit opioid fentanyl, take a long time to recover. So the goal of harm reduction is to keep people alive. An example is Narcan. It's an FDA-approved drug that can reverse an overdose as it's happening. Our community has done a fantastic job of embracing Narcan. Thank you to the Yakima Health District and other organizations who are actively trying to get this medication out there. Also, to dispel a myth, there are many of them out there. People don't get mad when their overdose is reversed because their high has been ruined. They get mad because they're going into a very rapid and intense onset of withdrawal symptoms. My last topic is MUAD, medication for opioid use disorder. This is used interchangeably with the term MAT, medication-assisted treatment. I referenced Jeff's prescription for Suboxone earlier. That's one form of MAT, medication-assisted treatment. I didn't understand it. I used the line that I hear often, aren't you trading one drug for another? If a drug keeps you alive, if it improves your quality of life, what do we care? What do we care? People take antidepressants to help with their depression. We need to embrace medication-assisted treatment as a legitimate form of treatment. Treatment. We hear it a lot. Most of us envision, if we haven't experienced it or helped a loved one through it, rehab. Maybe you go to detox and then a residential stay. Oftentimes expensive, hard to come by, and only covered for about 30 days. Many people recover this way. It is highly effective for some. The newer harm reduction approach builds off a strong evidence base to treat those with OUD as patients, using medication, often successfully as outpatient. We have an OTP, opioid treatment program, right here in our community. Comprehensive healthcare has what many of you probably have heard of, the methadone clinic, which is fine. I call it the methadone clinic. A lot of people know what methadone is, which, by the way, I'll just throw this out there. Methadone has actually been shown to be the most effective treatment for fentanyl. Not going to go into the barriers there, but what I want to say about our community is that there are only 2,000 of these opioid treatment programs in the U.S. 80% of counties don't have one, and we have one. We have one right down the block. That is great news. Almost done. Similar to diabetes, where the end goal is not a cure, but treatment that keeps severe illness, maybe even death, at bay, medication-assisted treatment allows patients better quality of life. According to recent research out of the University of Pennsylvania, we know only about 11% of those with opioid use disorder actually have access to medication. And we know some of the barriers. I just talked about it. That's problematic. And here's the other good news. Overdose decreased by 76% at 3 months and 59% at 12 months for those who are on medication-assisted treatment. Unfortunately, they're also stigmatized. As I wrap up, I'm often asked, how? Like, people still want to know. Like, how did Jeff become addicted to opioids? I don't know. I have no idea. He never sat me down and said, this is why. But we know now that the science of addiction, the biomedical social model, just kind of covers everything and says basically anyone can become addicted. There's a woman who I follow a lot, Dr. Anna Lemke, and she has my favorite quote. We think it's a downstream consequence of some other problem, but addiction is its own problem. You can still have a perfect life and get very addicted. I encourage you all to look, the second thing I'm asked is, okay, well, what can I do? So I encourage you to learn more about medication for opioid use disorder. I encourage you to go visit our, what used to be called Syringe Service Program, SSP. We've now changed the name to Harm Reduction Program, and that is at the corner of 3rd and Adams. If any of you have seen that park, there's an RV there. It is so empowering to go and to see people. They're just asking for help. Maybe they're not asking for treatment at that exact time, but they're asking for Narcan. They're asking for water or food. They're asking for hygiene kits. In Yakima, our harm reduction program, syringe service program, that's what it is only operating 3 hours a week. In comparison to counties our side around the state, that is way, way less. So I encourage you to learn about our harm reduction program through the Department of Health. I encourage you to do a ride-along with the Yakima Police Department. Anyone can do it. I encourage you to tour any of the facilities. You can call Comprehensive. You can ask for a tour of the opioid treatment program. You can visit Triumph and see their brand new Genesis building. There are many things you can do. If you don't want to do any of that, you can support these organizations through a financial donation. And you can ask me. You can ask me anything. You can email me. You can ask Rick for my email, and I will answer you. If I don't have the answer, I will go out and find it. To end, there's a quote in an article by David Brooks about the death of his close friend Pete to suicide. Maybe some of you read it. It was in the New York Times. I probably read it 5 times. It was the most beautifully written piece. This is what he said. Do whatever it is you do so you can look at yourself in the mirror. True friendship offers deep satisfactions, but it also imposes vulnerabilities and obligations. And to pretend it doesn't is to devalue friendship. What grief has imparted is an ability to look back with grace and compassion towards myself in hopes my words provide a sense of comfort for those of you living, working, befriending someone with substance use disorder. May we all develop our own metaphors that embody on our best of days imagery and language that we ourselves would want to hear spoken about us. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. I know that is such a hard story to share, and I had the privilege of meeting with Megan, what was that, maybe 3 years ago. And sharing the story, like you said, is very difficult, and I applaud you and I admire you for getting up and speaking about something that I know has been so traumatic for you and your family and friends, because you care so much about building awareness and saving lives. And I really appreciate what you do and what you stand for. Thank you. I do want to ask, I know we didn't have time for questions and you were open for questions. Can you stay a little while after? And yeah. And thank you for Rick for inviting Megan. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So we have our next week program is Bellbreaker Social. And if you buy tickets for the marble draw, you're sure to win. Committee meetings. Following this meeting is the membership development with John Cooper. Where is he? There he is. Next door. And then allocation and review with Leanne Antonio in conference room number 1. And meeting is adjourned. Thank you.